Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. Loads and loads of stuff to get through today. But first of all, I wanted to say a very quick and very happy birthday to Mr. John Woodward. Mr. John Woodward, former president of the Institute of Demolition Engineers and all-round good egg. I think he deserves a bit of, when I can find it, he deserves a bit of that. Many happy returns, John. I don't know where you are today. Don't suppose you're watching for one moment. He's largely retired these days, but happy birthday nonetheless. Who do we have in the chat? We have our mate is Mick. Mick is back. Morning, Mick. How are you doing, my friend? Very good morning to you all, he says. Good morning. Good to see you as well. Dan Cullen, another day and almost another month done. Yeah, we're almost at the end of the month. January lasted forever, and yet today, March and April, flown by. Steve Williamson says, morning, all feel so tired today. I need a break. Yeah, if you were listening to my wife, you'd think that Bauma was a holiday. We know differently. Mark Whiting's here as well. Morning, all he says. Who else do we have? Chris Ford says, good morning, you lucky people. Worse things happen at sea. I'll stay on land then in that case. And there's Dan Cullen, who was here at an ungodly hour. No, it wasn't too bad, actually. He was here at 9:39. Good morning to you one and all. Listen, there's a video doing the rounds today on the social medias. I'm going to play it for you. The version I've got, they've edited out all the effing and jeffing, which is probably just as well because it does impact upon our copyright and various other bits and pieces. I'm going to show it to you, and then, I tell you what. Let me show it to you first, and then we'll worry about why I'm showing it to you in just a moment. Bear with me 1 second while I find it. It is where are we? Here we go. Have a look at this, would you? Okay, so to cut a long story short, overnight somebody has basically, this is up in Darlington, somebody has gone on a bit of a rampage. Varying reports. One report said it was a dumper that had done the damage. Somebody else said a JCB. I guess it could be both of those things at the same time. No, none of that matters. The reason I wanted to show it to you was when you watched that, what was your first reaction? Did you watch that and think, that's a kid joyriding? Did you think that was somebody on a drunken spree off their face on drink or drugs or something? Or did you think exactly the same as me and Chris Ford? Someone not paid the subby again. Yeah. My first thought when I saw that was somebody's been knocked for money. Now, I'm not condoning those actions by any means or any way, shape, or form. There you are. Not just me, Steve Williamson saying they didn't get paid, I thought. Ken Hatcher, someone owes them money, I would think. Someone's not been paid. As I say, not condoning those actions. But, you know, desperate times, desperate measures, and all that kind of thing. If you are a subcontractor who is owed thousands, tens of thousands of pounds, and those houses are going for hundreds of thousands of pounds, and you haven't been paid, I can kind of see how that might pan out. Now, as I say, I've got no evidence that that was the case, but it does all feed in into my morning monologue today, which is all about respect within the industry, or quite possibly the lack thereof. Jim also says it might have been somebody that was sacked. Well, definitely sacked now. You would think so, wouldn't you? Yeah, I'm sure it will come out in the wash. Now, just one other thing that I do want to draw your attention to is we reported on this a few months ago. There was basically a con going on between a recruitment company or a labour supply company and three managers at Keltbray. In some ways, I guess Keltbray is kind of the victim here, although it was perpetrated by their employees, and oversight probably should have come in. But the guy that was running the labour supply company and 3 of those Keltbray managers yesterday jailed. You can read all about that over on demolitionnews.com this morning. Going back to that rampage, Mick says, no matter what whoever was owed, is it worth time in the neck? Probably not. Gary Muirhead, what have I missed? We were playing a video, Gary, which I'd have to upload again, but it was, I'm sure you've seen it on social media, of I think 7 homes up in Darlington, all been damaged by somebody driving a machine. Jim says, irrelevant how much the house is worth, the sale price is nowhere near the profit. Yeah, ain't that the truth? Yeah, ain't that the truth? Now, I do want to go back to one when I can find it. I know Mick said something that I wanted to pick up on. There it is. Somewhat surprised that Deconstruct has got the nod on Grenfell. I'm not, and I've got to be honest with you, I'm actually quite pleased about it. I mean, not that I get involved in the whys and wherefores of who wins demolition work. It's a dog eat dog world out there, and everybody's fighting for the work themselves. But bearing in mind that Deconstruct has been on that site since 2017, I mean, pretty much the day after the fire gutted the building. I know Paul Ford and his team were involved there, making sure that the building was safe for firefighters to enter and that kind of thing. I think just desserts on that one. Not one of not one of the big 10, I would say, probably. Although 12.5 million on that project will probably bump them up the league standings a little bit, and obviously not an NFDC member either, which is interesting in itself. Gary Muirhead says another Premier Inn operator at it again. Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I tell you what I'll do, Gary. I'll take it down and I'll re-upload it and I'll show it to you in just a second. I'll do a very quick version of it. Mick says, as for the Keltbray 3, knowing them from the past, I'm not really surprised. Obviously, let's not lose sight of the fact. As I say, Keltbray in some respects were partly the victim here, although should they have been paying closer attention to how much they were being charged for staff and what have you, I'm sure that will all be part of an internal investigation. But let's forget that they are also the company that got the biggest fine as part of the CMA investigation. Not good at all. Dan Cullen says it's great they got Grenfell, as they know the site inside out. They know the site inside out, but I think more specifically, they know the local community inside out. I know Paul Ford and his team over there have worked really, really closely with local community groups, and given the nature of the building, given the tragedy that unfolded there, I think that's every bit as important as knowing the building. So, as I say, I think it's a good thing. Peter McKenna has taken a break from all his hard work on behalf of the haulage drivers of the world. Good to see you here. House builder make massive profits compared to civil engineering companies, says Ken Hatchett. You're not wrong. And as they're already on site, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, you could have taken Deconstruct or DE Group, moved them off, and then moved somebody else on, but surely a bit quicker to keep them on site. Mick says, we'll have to have a look at the sentences as I've been away for a few days. Go over to demolitionnews.com. I can tell you, actually, because it's on my screen at the moment. Let's have a look. Let me just find it. Just scrolling down. Yeah. One of the guys has got 2 years, and the labour supply company, and one of the other guys has got, 2 of the other guys and the labour supply guy have got 3.5 years. But demolitionnews.com. Go and have a look. Steve says, I've heard some housing companies earn full profit on every third house build. Wow. If anybody's got any more update on that, I'd love to know. Yes, and they're not allowed to start work until the anniversary is done. No, apparently that is the case. I think you're absolutely right on that. Anywho, yes, June the 25th. So I would imagine Deconstruct or DE Group are probably in the process of getting ready to mobilise as we speak. I'm going to get rid of that film. Bear with me 1 second. I tell you what, let me very, very quickly. I know some of you already seen it, but I do want Gary to see it. Here we go. I'm not going to play it all the way through, but this is, there you are. Footage shows damage on a new build estate after reports of JCB driving into homes. I'm getting various reports that it was a JCB or it was a dumper. quite possibly both. I've not seen the machine personally. 7 homes. This is up in Darlington. 7 homes destroyed or partially destroyed. You'd have to think that pretty much all of those are going to have to come back down and start again because it looks like the damage is pretty extensive. Any more thoughts on that, please let us know. Ken Hatcher, going back to the house building thing, that is correct. 25% profit, maybe more. Jim Turner says, but the house builder takes the risk and the outlay of a saleable item in an ever-changing market. That's why they make the most profit, Ken. But they also make quite a bit of money by sitting on land for a prolonged period of time, don't they? Yeah, which I'm not entirely sure. Let's have a look. Mick says, were they council or private? If private, feel sorry for the buyers. Don't know the answer to that. I mean, Nigel Williams sent that to me at about, I don't know, 7:30 this morning. I've seen it on I think Peter McKenna may have sent it into the WhatsApp group as well. Not entirely sure what the score is there. And Gary Muirhead says, wow, what damage? Yes, indeed, what damage. Right. We're 12, nearly 13 minutes in. It is time to actually get the show underway. So I'm going to roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. It is Tuesday. Let me just check. No, it is. It is Tuesday, the 29th of April. I was worried for a minute there. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. In today's show, Develon, driven by innovation. Hitachi goes large with its wheel loaders. Caterpillar looks ahead to its next 100 years. It's celebrating 100 years now, but it's looking forward to the next 100 years. And in the latest installment of our Bauma recap series, we're visiting the biggest and quite possibly the best show at the exhibition, and that is in the company of Liebherr, plus 1 or 2 special guests, including a certain member of the Breakfast Show audience who is currently watching. Plus, in my morning monologue today, going back to all that business about the houses being damaged there, a single word to cure the industry's ills, and that word is respect. But before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of today's mystery machine to solve. It's pretty tight at the top this time around, so pay attention, get out your magnifying glasses. Dan Cullen, get out your tablet because it'll be right along after this. Yeah, now I'll tell you in advance, I have been out with a paintbrush on this one. This is not its natural colour scheme. I'm trying to throw you off the scent, but this is the machine I need you to identify. There you are. I'm looking for both a make and a model, if you would be so kind. Any thoughts on that? Anybody? Straight away? I'll let you mull that over. But as I say, make and model is what we're looking for. And while you're doing that, I'm going to very quickly remind you of our question of the day. Yeah, now I'd like this is a Gary Muirhead special. He says, if you were a boxer or a wrestler, what would you choose as your entrance music? Now, there are a couple that kind of choose themselves for me. Paperback Writer by the Beatles or Every Day I Write a Book by Elvis Costello. Both perfectly laudable answers. But I'm actually going to skip both of those. And I'm going, this is me, I'm going to go for Get a Grip by the Stranglers. Partly because I love the Stranglers. Partly because it's a great tune. And partly because every morning I wake up and that is my personal mantra. Oh, do get a grip. That's what we'd like to hear from you. Now, going back to all things house building related. Jim Turner says, no yearly profit from sitting on land. It costs money to buy or pay retention money and mothball it for years. It's a calculated risk. Nothing wrong with it, but that land should remain in use until the site kicks off. The problem is that land doesn't remain in use in many cases. It's basically just hoarded until the price is right, at which point everybody jumps on board. But I take your point. Let's have a look now. Going back to the mystery machine, which currently looks like that. Ken Hatcher reckons it could be a Volvo loader. It is not. Dan Cullen says, is it Korean? It is not. Jim Turner says, a Lugong shovel. It is not one of those. Ken Hatcher, I'm a survivor. He's going to be his theme tune. I quite like that, actually. Mick says, I thought it would be a great idea to buy a container and load a few bits up for the pig farm. Jesus effing Christ, the shipping cost is a bloody joke and no actual exact date for delivery. Obviously, for those of you that weren't paying attention, the pig farm to which he refers is overseas. Malta, right? I'm fairly sure. Peter McKenna says he's back. The phone doesn't stop ringing lately. Shame I'm struggling to get support from drivers. Seems they're sick of all the false promises in the past. Much the same story all over. Yet industry leaders seem to want to collaborate with me. Well, that's a starting point. Yeah, it's unfortunately all of these things are about inertia. I think for those of you that don't know, Peter is having a big drive, pardon the pun, on improving the lot of heavy goods vehicle drivers, the conditions they work in and where they stay and things like that. As with any kind of campaign, I would say, Peter, you can't. It's like that. Is it Sisyphus pushing the rock uphill? But I think once you start to get a bit of momentum, you'll be good to go. Right, back to the mystery machine. Dan Cullen reckons it could be a case road roller. It is not a case, and it is not a roller. There's a little bit more. Does that help? Does that help? Keep the guesses coming. We do have lots of. Hang on a minute. I didn't see that one arrive. Bear with me. Gary Muirhead reckons that could be the Liebherr L556. It's not, but you're not a million miles away. Keep the guesses coming. Back after this. Those fine folks at Develon, one of those, they've got a new corporate film out, and we've got it for you right now.
The path of innovation that Develon has paved. Through constant challenges and continuous progress onwards, have become our name. Powered by innovation, Develon unlocks infinite possibilities. We lay the foundation of technology, lead industrial progress with new technologies and solutions, and shape the future through transformation. Creating new value in the construction equipment industry, Develon's innovation is always present. In 1937, we took a bold first step by establishing Korea's first machinery factory. Even with economic hardships and lack of technology, we kept pushing forward, taking on every challenge. This led to the realization of innovation and opened a new path. Develon is creating new paths around the world, stronger and smarter. Services that connect every site in real time and revolutionize the working environment. Leading the way, we are shaping on-site innovation. Develon's innovation unlocks new possibilities and is changing the world. We offer innovative work methods, automation and unmanned technologies, and sustainable solutions. Evolving creatively and flexibly for a better future. To boost productivity and ensure safety for business success, Develon builds a future with active, leading, and transformative innovation. Business success, industrial growth, and global advancement. Develon is always at the heart of it all.
Right, so thoroughly enjoyed that. We have a winner, and in fact, we have two winners of our mystery machine, and I don't know quite how it's happened, but they have proved that there is. I wouldn't say it's a glitch in the system, but I didn't realise it could do this. Now, as you may well know, I'm looking at two different screens. I've got one screen there, and I've got another screen over there, and I've got two different sets of chat on both. Okay. This is the mystery machine, and I can tell you that two people have got the right answer. Let me just very quickly go through the wrong answers. Gary Muirhead reckons it's an LR 634 from Liebherr. It's not. Steve Williamson reckons the L507 stereo from Liebherr. It's not any of those things. It's also not the 508, according to Chris Ford. So at 10:19, Dan Cullen said it's the L509 from Liebherr. At 10:19, Steve Williamson also said the L509 from Liebherr. Now, on that screen, Dan's answer came through first. So you would think he would be the winner. However, over on this screen, I don't know how it's happened. Steve Williamson's answer has arrived first, and Dan Cullen's has arrived second. So it's a double. It's a draw. Steve, Dan, you're both winners. Sorry, my memory has gone completely up the up the Swanee. Mick is sending things to a pig farm in Italy. How do you pronounce that? Nuctaro? I'm sure that's not right. Let me know. I don't know. I don't know how you'll let me know. Just very quickly, and I don't know if you guys have touched base. I am planning to go to London on Saturday this week, in the possibly vain hope of meeting up with at least Dan, if not Dan, but Dan and Mick. Are you about guys? Love to know. Love to know. I do have some prizes to hand over to Mr. Cullen if he is available, so let me know on that. We're going to be right back after a smidgen of this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, we're going off to see some big Hitachi wheel loaders in action right now, so well, sit back and enjoy.
My name's Danny C. Worked here for nearly 50 years. This particular plant's been in operation since '65. Thompson Contractors, they've been in business since the 40s. We sell mostly to state projects, but there's lots of private stuff. We furnish asphalt plants. We shot shots up to 80,000 tons at one time. And then it's loaded by hydraulic shovel or front end loader, hauled to the primary plant, crushed down, and then goes to the secondary plant, then sized out, different sizes, goes where it's a stockpile. The trucks are loaded with a loader to whatever destination they're going to. The 550 loads big rock out of the pit when it needs to, but then I got the 370, it loads in the yard all the time. They're a better loader than anything I've ever had before. They're stout, they're really well balanced, big enough to handle anything we got. Even though it's a big loader, we don't have a problem. We can load any size truck that comes in. And the 370 is a high capacity. It actually has a little bit bigger bucket than the 550 does. If you need a big machine, Hitachi is definitely one of the better, if not the best. We kind of went basically all Hitachi. The company has to stand behind the equipment, because if they don't, you're not going to buy them. Hitachi and the loaders and the excavators have been great for us. This works for us the way we've done. You just need the equipment that'll stay running to keep your production up.
My daddy makes grease. Sorry, just have to do it when I hear a voice like that. Jim Turner, going back to all things house building, says city on land doesn't push prices up. The lack of houses pushes prices up. The problem is created by councils not granting planning to small businesses. They want to deal with large developers. I could easily fire a dozen houses up in partnership with a small local builder, therefore supporting the local economy far better than a large developer would, he says. Dan Cullen is available on Saturday. Dan, I am planning to go to South Bank. Does that work for you? There's a secondhand book thing at South Bank. That's where I'm planning to go. If you're about, please let me know. Peter McKenna says he's still ill. Could be back in hospital real soon. Fingers crossed that that's not the case. Mick says he's about 18 miles from Bari. Does that mean you're in Puglia? Does that make you the Puglia region? I think Bari is Puglia. Not entirely sure. Dan Cullen says they look beast, but Hitachi excavators not my cup of tea, not worth the money they sell for, he says. Peter says, always a smile on my face. What's the point in feeling sad for myself? There are people worse off than me. That's basically why you tune into this, isn't it? And Bast L036, the 550 Radlader ist ein Perfection, he says. It's in German. I don't know, but he also says super. Okay. I don't know what to say. I don't speak German. Yes, there is that great book stand. That is precisely where I'm headed. I feel like I'm owed a few secondhand books, basically. So if we can make that happen, I'm planning to be there, I don't know, about 11:30, 12 o'clock. If you're about, then let's hook up and I'll be sure to bring all your prizes with me. We could do this offline. We don't need to do it right now. We're going off into the next century with Caterpillar immediately after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Peter McKenna says, aha, ha, he says, not aha, ha. Now, don't put yourself down. Always worth the watch. Just a shame we don't get a chance to talk more often. Yeah, it's something I need to work on. I've got to be honest, it is something I need to work on. I had all these grand promises of making lots more phone calls and FaceTime calls and all that kind of thing, but at the turn of the year, done nothing. Jim Turner says, and that steady stream of development would mean that no land would be sat idle, as a future development land would continue to be farmed right up to the point the next block got site stripped, he says. There you are. Jim Turner, Housing Minister. Mick says, C, Mark, it is in Puglia. Thought it was. Yeah, I have to admit, I've got a bit of a hankering for a spot of Puglia. My wife has rather thrown a spanner in the works. We've got a cruise coming up at the end of the year, but it's our 35th wedding anniversary next month, and I was planning to head off somewhere, but she's here, there, and everywhere. She's off to Greece on Saturday this week. She's back for about 2 weeks, and she goes to Greece again. So yeah, you can see where all my money goes. Anywho, yes, Caterpillar. Well, I can't remember if I played the bit in between, but Caterpillar are celebrating their 100th anniversary. How do you know? Because they haven't stopped talking about it for the last 6 months, but they're also looking ahead to their next 100 years, like this.
At Caterpillar, we concentrate on making things right.
I'll be sure to send him a message on that, Steve. Fred needs to watch this. Next level drone flying. That, yes, it certainly is. Steve says, I tried that drone kind of footage years ago. Flew straight into the dipper. Yeah, we've flown into dippers. We've flown into the side of trucks. We've flown up a pipe, not on purpose. We have flown it into the side of a building as well. It's not as easy as it looks. I'll be absolutely honest with you. Mick says, bring your tools, mate, and you get a free bed. Well, Lilo. Yeah. Listen, even if you'd got your new property for nothing, me and DIY would devalue it overnight. I promise you. And Steve says, I'm assuming that's where are you cruising? We're doing the Med. We've done it a few times before, but we're doing a different route this time. We're actually flying to Rome. And taking the train down to Civitavecchia on the coast, picking up the cruise ship there, and we are going about the place, and we end up, I know we go to Marseille and just trying to remember other places, Naples, Marseille, and we end up in Barcelona, basically. And then we fly back from Barcelona. So that's where we're headed. Steve says, expensive hobby. Not so much now. Obviously, drones have come down quite a bit in price anyway, and the one that I've got is it's kind of encapsulated. I've flown it into stuff, including my own face. I have to say, less said about that, the better. But yes, I've flown it into my own face, and it's okay. It doesn't do it any harm. Is Mick going to be in the UK? Are you in the UK on Saturday, Mick? That's the question. A good FPV pilot can do amazing things with drones the size of a palm of your hand and travel over 40 miles an hour. I don't know how they do it. The speed of reaction is not what it was anyway. But I've tried an FPV drone for about 10 seconds. Freaked me out. Couldn't do it. Maybe it's not supposed to be for me. I don't know. Now, where's that gone? It's okay. I thought I'd lost a video. I haven't lost a video. It's just in a different place. I'm going to play this, and we're going to go back to Bauma in just a moment. As you know, we've been doing guided tours of various stands. If we'd have done these in order of size, magnitude, and possibly quality, this would probably have been the first, but we haven't. We've done it in random order. But we are now going to take a look at the Liebherr stand. 95% of the Liebherr stand, because I was rudely interrupted right at the very end. So there will be a part 2 to this at some point in the not too distant future. But sit back, because we've now got the best part of 8 minutes, because it takes that long to walk around the Liebherr stand. 8 minutes in the company of Liebherr and Steve Williamson and Ed Butler and Fred. Just watch. You have to forgive me for the camera angle on this one. I just wanted to show you the sheer scale of the cranes on the Liebherr stand. I'm not going to be looking at the cranes. I'm going to be looking at the earth moving equipment, because we are on the biggest stand and quite possibly the best stand at the entire show. So let's go and take a look around. I can tell you a few facts about this stand before we even begin. There are more than 100 machines crammed into here, and they're not exactly crammed either. Plenty of space, because they've got 15,000 square metres of stand space, starting off with the X-Power wheel loader, and then the PR776, one of the big dozers from Liebherr. I'm trying to keep those red machines out of shot for just the time being. A couple of smaller dozers, the 636, and a Trimble Ready 716. Telehandlers in the background there. I'm going to cut through here very quickly. Something a little bit unusual, the 930 tunnel machine, which looks like that. If you can see in the background, that is actually the Liebherr stand. It's on 4 stories. It is basically an office block that they bring to Bauma. The TA230, I think everyone is pretty familiar with that. Took a spin in one of these the other day. Absolutely astonishing piece of kit. Doesn't get any less exciting. Obviously, All the talk at the moment is about hydrogen. Liebherr were talking about hydrogen here last year. I say last year, I mean 3 years ago, but they've now come back with the L566X power, hydrogen powered. Do a quick run around here. In addition to the hydrogen, they've got the electric machines as well. Just widen the camera angle because there's a lot more to get in. The slogan for Liebherr at this show is hands on the future. I'll leave you to work out what that's all about, but as you can see, electric machines out in full force. There's a rail machine working in the background there. They've got a 726 dozer on the demo plot. I'll come back around to here in just a moment because I want to take you through to see, in the unlikely event that I was required to spend my own money on a machine here at Bauma, my first choice would probably be that, the 945 demolition rig. But my first choice would be its big brother, the 998 SME. Look at that. Now listen, I love the Liebherr white and yellow livery, but you put a Liebherr in red, it just makes it pop. What a machine. And that's where you park a telescopic handler, apparently, right up there. Right, I'm going to spin around because there's even bigger to be seen here. Let me go through and weedle my way through, back past the hydrogen machine, back past a few electrics. Over in the background there's a few more cranes, but this is actually the demo plot for the Liebherr stand. And I'm going to come around slowly on that one because I want to go through, I want to take you to see some of the biggest machines actually at the show, certainly on the Liebherr stand. This is probably the point where I need to speed things up a bit. It's very early, but they've already got the material handler doing its thing. LH60E electric machine. Fantastic piece of kit. As you can see, there's the 4-story Liebherr tower block. We go out the front of the show and do a slow reveal. Just very quickly, there's the innovation lab. We were in there a couple of days ago looking at how the autonomous equipment works. I'll show you the autonomous equipment in just a moment, but spin around back to the material handler. There's some of the attachments that it uses. I'm going to kind of skirt the next machine that you see because it's a crane and I don't know the first thing about them, but there is a big old crane there. You can see that bucket doing its thing. Oh mate, I'm happy to put you on camera if you like. The problem with Bauma is you bump into people like these. Right, if you look at the background there, that's Steve Williamson, Ed Butler and my son Fred about to go up there. Liebherr very kindly allowed us to get up in the cab of an absolute monster. Again, one of the biggest machines at the stand and at the show. All electric, as you can see. I'm going to go around the back, probably see them disappearing up the stairs. I'm going to back up so we can get all of the machine in. I'm going to back up quite a long way too. Yes, the Liebherr 9400. You can probably see that on the back there. Another machine that is familiar to regulars on the Breakfast Show. We actually saw this exclusively at Mine Expo last year over in Las Vegas. That's the TA2 or the T264 rather. Electric and autonomous. Developed with Fortescue Mining down in Australia. I want to show you very, very quickly. If you have a look here, that is the charging solution. So that's basically a charging robot. So the machine is parked up, that charging robot plugs it in and hooks it up with power. And just to show you the sheer scale of the T264, I'm going to walk back 20-30 yards so that I can get it all in. And you probably won't be able to see, but I'm fairly sure that the person driving that is none other than Steve Williamson. Steve and Ed have been putting on a fantastic display over at the Kinshofer stand on much, much smaller machines than this. I wish you could see him because he's got a big smile on his face. And sat right behind him, my son Fred. Just an astonishing piece of engineering. It's only when you see these things up close you realise just what a feat of engineering they are. There you are. Steve, does that take you back? I think it probably does. He's sat there with a big grin on his face. It was Steve at the controls. Just goes to show a decent operator, doesn't matter the size of the machine, you can get your head around it. Peter McKenna on a similar sort of subject. I'm better with a materials handler than I am with any digger, just to show them there's no self-employed jobs about operating them. They're all cards in jobs paying minimum wage. Sad to see. Dan Cullen said that is an animal. He was talking about the big machine there. Let's have a look. What do we got? There's Steve Williamson. Say love it. Makes the TB 250 I bought look like a dinky toy. Yeah, everything looks like a dinky toy alongside of those. Up close, be unbelievable. Wow, in person. Yeah, indeed. Dan, get yourself over. Get yourself over and take a look. Honestly, you'll thank me for it at some point in the future. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue to talk about all things to do with respect. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back, as I say, to talk about respect in just a moment after. There is much that ails the demolition and construction industry. Site accidents and fatalities, a mental health crisis in which the industry has a suicide rate almost 4 times the national average, a gender and racial imbalance that persists despite years of awareness campaigns and hollow promises, cutthroat competition that forces contractors to underbid, underdeliver, and undervalue the very workers who make their businesses possible. Unreasonable contract and employment terms that shift all the risk downward onto the shoulders of those least able to carry it. Equipment and fuel theft that adds insult to injury on already strained margins. An employee churn rate that has workers queuing up at the industry exit while the industry entrance is almost eerily quiet. We like to treat these as isolated problems. We spend millions on new PPE initiatives, mental health posters, diversity programs, contract reforms, and security upgrades. Each issue is treated as a separate fire to be extinguished, a leak to be plugged, a nuisance to be managed. But what if I told you that all of these issues, all of them, stem from the same poisoned well, that there is a single remedy, a cure, a panacea to all of the industry's ills. And that panacea comes in a single word: respect. Respect is not just politeness or the avoidance of cruelty. It's a foundational principle upon which sustainable, thriving industries are built. It's the understanding that every life on the job matters, not because of regulations or insurance risks, but because behind every hard hat and every high-vis jacket is a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, a son, or a daughter. Respect is realizing that safety is not a box to tick, but a duty of care owed to every single human being who sets foot on a site. When we truly respect the lives and well-being of our workers, safety improves. Investment in training and equipment becomes non-negotiable. Corners aren't cut because cutting corners would mean disrespecting the trust our workers place in us every day. Fatalities drop. Accidents drop. Most importantly, families stay whole. Respect also demands that we look hard at the mental health crisis we've allowed to fester. We can't solve mental health struggles with a toolbox talk or a poster campaign. We can't address crushing loneliness, burnout, addiction, and despair with another corporate newsletter or corporate video. Respect means creating real support structures, real counselling access, real understanding, not judgment, not ridicule, not false silence. When workers feel respected, they're more likely to speak up before they reach breaking point. When respect permeates an organisation, it stops being a source of silent suffering and starts becoming a place of solidarity, of strength, and of hope. That suicide rate isn't just a statistic. It's a daily and damning indictment of an industry that has too often mistaken toughness for cruelty, resilience for silence. I'll do that again because that didn't make any sense at all. The suicide rate isn't just a statistic. It's a daily and damning indictment of an industry that has too often mistaken toughness for cruelty and resilience for silence. Respect demands that we acknowledge the imbalance of gender and race across the industry, not by posting a carefully staged photo of a lone woman or a minority worker once a year, but by dismantling the systems that have kept them excluded, undermined, and unrecognised. It means hearing the voices that have far too long been shouted over. It means creating workplaces where anyone with skill, passion, and drive can thrive without facing harassment, mockery, or second guessing. Diversity isn't a nice to have, it's a must have. It's an industry survival mechanism. A diverse workforce brings diverse thinking, resilience, and adaptability, the very traits that an evolving, challenged industry so desperately needs. But diversity can't flourish without respect at its root. Respect even has a role in fixing the cutthroat competition that has hollowed out the hearts of this industry. When we respect the work itself, when we recognise that skilled demolition and construction are arts, sciences, and crafts, we stop engaging in the race to the bottom. We stop undercutting to win at any cost. We stop celebrating the lowest bid instead of the best value. Contracts should be built on fairness, not the desperate hope that someone will take the bait and figure out how to survive later. Employment terms should honour the fact that without workers, there is no project, no profit, no future. Respect leads to sustainable pricing, sustainable business practices, and ultimately a sustainable industry. Even theft, that daily scourge of stolen tools, fuel, and machines, has its roots in disrespect. Disrespect for other people's property. Disrespect for the hard work that paid for that equipment. Disrespect for the shared goal of building something together instead of tearing each other down. A culture of respect breeds loyalty and pride. It makes the theft of a co-worker's tools not just a crime, but a betrayal. It makes every worker a steward of the site, their equipment, and their community. Finally, respect is the answer to the silent cues we see, people leaving the industry faster than we can replace them. You can't attract the next generation of workers with money alone. You can't lure them with promises of opportunity while offering a life of grind, danger, and disregard. Young people today want and deserve to work where they're valued, where they're heard, where they can build careers, not just serve sentences. Respect isn't old-fashioned. It's the most modern, radical, and necessary force we have. If we want to fill our sites tomorrow, we need to build a culture of respect today. We can have the safest boots, the highest fences, the toughest contracts, and the flashiest recruitment ads. But without respect, all of those are bandages on a severed limb. They treat the symptoms, but not the disease. They delay the collapse, but they don't prevent it. And respect is not a cost. It's not a burden. It's an investment in the future. And the return on that investment is survival, prosperity, pride, and human dignity. There is much that ails the demolition and construction industry, but there's also a lot that could heal it. Not through bureaucracy, not through empty slogans, but through a simple, profound change in mindset. Respect. It starts with how we speak to one another. It grows in how we treat one another. It blooms in the policies we write, the standards we set, and the expectations we uphold. It's one word, one cure, one solution. As Aretha Franklin said, RESPECT, respect. There you are. There's my thought for the day. Probably should change this from morning monologue, but it is thought for the day. Going back to that Liebherr machine, I got up there as the operator as a follower. I couldn't believe it. I wouldn't be surprised if we were the only visitors that actually got to operate it. Didn't see too many others. Dan Cullen is off to work. Have a fantastic day, he says. Peter McKenna says, that's half the problem in the transport industry. There is no respect for drivers nowadays. It was fine during COVID when they were the knights of the road. Nowadays, they are definitely lowest of the low and always in the way of everyone. I know some lads in construction feel the same, so it's not just limited to one industry. It isn't. But I don't think this is, I mean, obviously my primary concern here is one of the workers, because that's who most of my audience is. But it's not even just that. It's not just respect for workers. It's respect for everything within the industry. Respect for a demolition contract. How much is that demolition contract going to be? It's going to be £500,000. How long is it going to take? 8 weeks. Right. Okay. So you've got the job. Fantastic. But we want you to do it for 400,000 and we want you to do it in 4 weeks. Well, hang on a minute. Where's the respect there? You have employed us as the experts in our field, and now you're trying to undermine what we've told you. People being constantly undercut for price. The race to the bottom. The video that I showed you at the beginning of the show, we don't know the actual turnout on that, but the chances are that is probably a disgruntled ex-employee or a disgruntled subcontractor who has taken matters into his own hands. Wrongly, I grant you, but he's taken matters into his own hands and destroyed 7 newly built homes. Had he been treated with more respect, would that have happened? Probably not. The mental health crisis. I know I bang this drum a lot. If you were treated with respect, if your work-life balance was given some consideration, if you were given time off to spend with your family when your family needs you most, all of those things, if you were to accommodate that, would we have the same suicide rate that we have? If you weren't asked to work away from home for prolonged periods, if you were guaranteed to be paid at the end of the week or the end of the month, if you had proper job security, not just job security until the next downturn comes along. Respect for the workers, respect for the industry, respect for subcontractors and fellow contractors and specialist contractors, respect for women. Again, it's another drum that I beat all the time. If women on site were treated with respect rather than as eye candy or novelty or the punchline to a joke, we'd have more of them, wouldn't we? That's my feeling anyway. Steve says, if you have a tilt rotator here, you're respected by all the ground workers. Should it take that though? And listen, I'm pleased to hear that, given that Steve is a tilt rotator fan and very good on a tilt rotator, as I can testify. But surely, just as a worker, you should be kind of respected anyway, wouldn't you thought? Respect is a very rare commodity in demo, says Mick. Always has been. Always prefer to work for smaller firms, family firms. But even then, if your face didn't fit, then you were only an end to the means. Yeah, true enough. You're right, Jim. I 100% agree. Respect needs to be earned. It's never a given. I 100% agree with that. But should the starting point be disrespect? But, if you've got respect that you earn, disrespect that you also earn, would you not be better off starting in the middle? Jim, I'm sure you and I have got this in common. I tend to treat new people with a degree of caution. and I will make my judgment based upon how they treat me and how they treat others. If it turns out they're nice people, then I'm nice to them. If it turns out they're gits, then I treat them as such. But I do start on a level footing, and depending on how they behave and stuff, that depends how my balance goes. Uh, Respect needs to be both ways between employer and employee. 100%. Yeah, listen. I mean, I do tend to take the workers' side here because, as I say, that is my primary audience. But when you've got workers being, particularly those from agencies, we need 5 men for Monday morning. Not a problem at all. Only 2 of them turn up on the Monday, and on the Tuesday, only 1 of them turns up, and then on the Wednesday, none of them turn up at all. That's a disrespect. But then paying your bills on time, that's a matter of respect. You've paid a specialist to do some work that you needed doing that you couldn't do for yourself for one reason or another. It's only right and proper they should get paid, isn't it? And get paid in a timely manner as well. Not retentions held on to, not finding excuses not to pay, not using the checks in the mail, or the person that signs the check is in the Bahamas or something like that. Yeah. Jim Turner says, yes, mate, I always start off being cautious, but I can go right the other way if I think they're taking me for an idiot. I'm going to go with on that because I've kept the swearing to a minimum on today's show. Never believed in waiting for someone to earn my respect. I will always treat people with respect on the first meeting. It's what comes after that that matters to me. Yeah. I think you can tell a lot about people, and I realize it's become a bit of a cliche, but when you see certain celebrities, and I'll rather than showing you the bad or telling you the bad, I'll tell you the good. Somebody like a Keanu Reeves, who basically, probably a hundreds of millionaires or hundreds of millionaire, and yet apparently, by all accounts, completely unaffected by it. Uh, gives away a lot to charity, does an awful lot of work behind the scenes. I've even seen when they were making one of the John Wick movies, rather than being the celeb in his fancy trailer, there's him carrying camera gear up a flight of stairs because, there was a lot of people, there was a lot of work to be done. That's my thing. Not cautious, courteous. Yeah, I don't think that's bad. Mick says, did you mention to meet this Saturday at the South Bank? I did, Mick. I did indeed. I've got to take my wife and daughter to the airport on Saturday morning, which means that I will be up at a reasonable hour. So my plan basically is to drop them off, come back here to home, probably have a bowl of cornflakes or something, then jump on the train. I'm going to South Bank anyway. And I'm planning to be there, I don't know, 11:30, 12 o'clock, something like that. As I say, going to the second-hand bookstore, probably have a bit of a stroll along the river. If you fancy joining me, fantastic. If not, if you just fancy a cup of coffee or a swift half somewhere, do that as well. Just let me know. As I say, somewhere between 11:30 and 12 o'clock, I would say. And few went home early, decided to go straight on the Charlie, was told they have to get back on site. What morons? Hang on a minute. Well, I've missed the first part of the story. Look at here yesterday. 10 men sacked as they failed drug and alcohol tests. If they had respect for the job and employer, they wouldn't have done it. And he says they were off on the Gianluca Vialli, the chart. Yes. Listen, I don't need to tell you people. You live in the real world. They thought they'd have a week off, so went on it like tools. Yeah. I mean, there's a question mark over self-respect there, isn't there? A Mick says, okay, I'll meet you both up there. Fantastic. Look forward to it. It's going to be a jolly boys outing of the Breakfast Show. I'm not going to suggest we meet under a clock and I'll be holding a single red rose or something like that. I'll actually be holding a JCB bag. I'll be easy to spot. No questions about that. I mean, you kind of know what I look like anyway. So, track me down. But you've got my number. You've got my number on the WhatsApp group. Just give me a bell when you're there, and we'll meet up. As I say, let's go and have a cup of coffee. Let's go and have a swift half somewhere. Look forward to seeing you and meeting up, guys. Woohoo, says Dan. But woohoo indeed. Woohoo indeed. Anyway, people, that's an hour. Go, go, go. Do your days. I'll be back here tomorrow if we get more of the same. I'm not even going to say I don't know what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, because you know that's the case. I never know what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, but I'm sure I'll come up with something. Until then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Thanks for your company. Thanks for all your feedback. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. All the best.